rain falls, heart burns dry. You dream for a song that hits you so hard, filling you up. Suddenly gone.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Erin is trying to stuff me up as always. Hello, everyone. Welcome to One Shot Revolver. This is our fundraising month for Rainbow Railroad, who help persecuted people of the world escape horrible situations, LGBTQIA plus people. We have special guests today, and they are first Mr. James Holloway. Hello.
Hi.
Mr. Chris Lackey and Mr. Rafe Ball.
Hello, hello.
Before we get started, I'll do an acknowledgement of country. I begin today by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people and the Noongar people, traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, and pay my respects to their elders past and present. Let us get started. So, maybe we'll do the promo stuff at the end. So maybe we'll just get started and hand over to James to get us going. I'll during the stream in the chat, I'll put the link to how you can donate. So let's go.
All right. Welcome, everyone. Good morning, Chris and Rafe. Good afternoon, Damien, Erin, and Danielle. So today we're going to be playing a game called Brindlewood Bay. It's been described as Murder, She Wrote, but with the Cthulhu mythos. Although I suspect that in a one-shot, we'll be focusing more on the kind of Murder, She Wrote aspect. It's written by Jason Cordova and published by The Gauntlet. Now, normally in the first session of a Brindlewood Bay game, we would begin with shared character creation. But in order to save time, we've actually done this already. So all of our players have created characters, or murder mavens, or mystery mavens as they're called, who are all members of the same mystery book club in the scenic New England town of Brindlewood Bay. And in addition to meeting to discuss their favorite mystery novels, in particular the Gold Crown Mystery series, they also solve murders, much to the discomfiture of Brindlewood County Sheriff Wyman Dalrymple. So to begin with, I'd like to introduce our players and their characters. So Danielle, would you like to start? Tell us a little bit about your maven.
No problem. So I am Laura Andrews. I'm a retired journalist, not famous journalist, just probably a little bit more famous than just local. Moved to Brindlewood Bay after my late husband, Jonathan, passed away. He taught at the university, and I believe he taught mathematics, but I never really understood what it was that he was teaching. And to be honest, he never really understood what I was writing. But we loved each other anyway, so that's all right. My daughter Emily has moved to Europe, so I don't see her very often, but she does something in IT. It's important, very important. So I live with my border collie and my roses. Roses are very important to me. I breed them, I grow them, I show them sometimes. I suspect that the rest of my book club are a little bit tired of hearing about my roses, so instead I tell them all about my dog, which, you know, that seems perfectly reasonable to me. Right? At least one of the others has a dog, and I think the others have cats.
So now you mentioned gardening, and this may come up, so worth pointing out that gardening is your character's cozy activity, right? Every maven has one cozy activity that they do, and Laura's is gardening. All right, wonderful. Thank you very much. Let's then go on to Rafe. Rafe, why don't you tell us about Ronnie.
Absolutely. So Ronnie, which is short for Veronica, is a retired magician's assistant. She was the assistant to her now dearly departed husband, the marvellous Marv, master of the magical arts, who was also something of a bungling amateur detective. And as a side job, Ronnie would often have to ride in as the cavalry and rescue him. As a result, she's rather handy on her feet and with her fists. So she's a short, plump old lady, if you know the actress Miriam Margolyes, a bit like that with big, thick bottom glasses. But she's also like a blue rinse Mr. T and able to bring a bit of muscle to the group if needed, despite her appearances.
Fantastic. And your cozy activity is, what do you do in your spare time?
She loves to bake.
It's a shame we're not playing the Great Brindlewood Bay Bake Off, a mystery that is complicated by the fact that I have never seen an episode of the Great British Bake Off. So all my players were laughing at all the references, which I did not get. Okay. Next up, Damien, why don't you tell us a little bit about Patricia?
I am playing Patricia Lamington. She has the blouse barn style, which I think is a kind of like wannabe kind of upper class kind of style. She's into collecting porcelain frogs. Sadly, her husband Frank has passed away, but she has a Sphinx cat called Reginald, and she has a beautiful faux Renaissance style painting of Reginald. She loves to tell everyone about. She used to be a fish cleaner or a fish gutter in her prime years, and that's basically it. I think that covers everything.
Fantastic. Let's move on to Chris in that case. So, Chris, why don't you tell us about Susan?
I'm playing Susan Blair. She is a former actress, but she's now retired, and she's focusing on her pottery. She has a very hippie kind of bohemian aesthetic, but she does have an air of glamour about her still. Her now deceased ex-husband was film producer Dan Evans, and she never had any children with him or anybody else, but she currently has a Great Dane named Francis, who is also aging himself. So he's a bit of a slowed down dog, and she's considering getting another dog to keep him company. One thing about her that everybody in this group knows is that she had an affair with Donald Sutherland in 1971, and she doesn't let anybody not remember that she had an affair with Donald Sutherland in 1971. And she loves pottery. That's her cozy activity.
All right, fantastic. I'm getting visions of a game in which, like a spin, if the series is successful, we go to a spin-off in which the pets solve mysteries. All right. And finally, Erin, would you tell us about Rosemary?
Hi, I am playing Rosemary Urving. She would be like a thin nana, except she's got so many cardigans on top of cardigans that she looks like quite a plump nana. Back in her day, she was into herbalism and did like healing in that way. She's got a cat named Winston. Winston's her favorite cat, but she does have many, many, many cats. Was married to a gentleman called Ferguson, but, cared more about her cats than she did Ferguson. And Ferguson is now dead. Good riddance. Her cozy activity is antiquing and furniture. She enjoys that because she always hopes that one day she'll come across maybe like a magic genie lamp or a magic wand. She believes in the occult and everything strange, mystical, and wonderful.
Fantastic. I love that. So we were talking earlier about where you wanted to spend your character's ability points, and I actually really like that Rosemary is into the occult, but not good at the occult. So like she just likes magic. It doesn't mean she can do it. I mean, well, she can do it as well as anybody else can, which is to say, not great.
Sort of see that her -1 sensitivity is that when it does finally happen, she's been waiting for it for so long, she just loses her shit.
All right, fantastic. So these are our mavens. So Just to talk a little bit about the kind of like tone that we can expect in an episode of Brindlewood Bay. Obviously, Brindlewood Bay is an homage to like the cozy mystery genre. So shows like Murder, She Wrote. Then, there's a list of other entries in the genre, but I actually am not familiar with any of them. Are Magady mysteries cozy? Would you call them cozy? Let's call them cozy. They're populated by eccentric characters and like weird situations. And even though people get killed, there's maybe a sense that the stakes are kind of low. Not so much the case here. I guess the British equivalent would be like the Midsummer Murders, right? Are they cozy, Rafe? I've never seen one. Ish.
Plenty of bodies dropping in Midsummer. You wouldn't want to buy property there.
Well, that actually is one of those things, right? It's like Cabot Cove, Maine, right? Despite the fact that Brindlewood County has the highest murder rate in the United States, no one there's maybe a sense that there's something a little eerie in Brindlewood Bay, but everyone's very cheerful about it. So it's a cozy horror game, which is a weird concept, but I think you'll see it works. One of the things here, like there is some kind of like camp humor that I think is part of this game, but the distinction is like we laugh about it, but the characters take it completely seriously. So like Jessica Fletcher never winks at the audience, never acknowledges that like the situation is absurd. Columbo never thinks it's odd that like he never arrests anybody who isn't a scheming mastermind. That's just kind of like the characters play it straight, even though I think there are some things in here that we're going to find a little ridiculous. So today's mystery is called Dad Overboard. Now, each mystery in Brindlewood Bay has a complexity rating, and the complexity rating affects the difficulty of solving it, which we'll get to when we get to it. But I'll tell you that the complexity rating for today's mystery is 5. It's normally a little bit higher, but I've lowered it because I want to make sure that we get through this in one session. So our show opens with the picturesque New England town of Brindlewood Bay. Now, for the non-Americans, both in the game and in the audience, this is like, it's a picturesque seaside place. All the like old clapboard houses are painted white. There's a lighthouse on a lonely point, just slightly outside of town. And as you go down the waterfront of Brindlewood Bay, it's all art galleries and antique stores and expensive coffee shops. It's very geared toward the tourist trade. Lots of colorful flower boxes in front of the little cottages. And we're going to begin with what's called a cozy vignette. So if you imagine the opening credits of the Brindlewood Bay TV show, in which we see each of your characters doing something, right? So Danielle, if we were, what do our viewers see as the Brindlewood Bay theme song plays, and Laura appears?
What time of year is it? It's important.
It's probably summer because people are on holiday.
Okay. In summer, they'd probably see me out in my garden, surrounded by flowering roses, playing fetch with my border collie.
All right, great. So the camera goes past you as you're working in your garden, and we move on to Rafe. So what's Ronnie's cozy vignette look like?
I think Ronnie's probably pulling a freshly baked apple pie out of the oven, taking a lovely smell and popping it on the windowsill to cool.
All right, terrific. And Damien, what's Patricia's?
Patricia is frantically cleaning the house because she has a little bit of OCD tendencies, and dusting her porcelain frog collection. And yes, she would definitely smile at the camera.
All right. And Chris, what's Susan up to?
Susan is sitting in front of her pottery table, spinning. The sun is coming in behind her through the lights. She is smiling to herself, and her Great Dane is sitting at her feet.
All right. And finally, Erin, what about Rosemary?
Rosemary has Winston around her shoulder as if he was a scarf, and she's currently at an antique shop rubbing a bed doorknob, trying to see whether it will teleport her anywhere.
All right, fantastic. So as you're all engaged in these, it's Saturday evening, by the way. As you're all engaged in these activities, you look at your watch, you look at the clock, a chime goes off, something reminds you that it is almost time for the weekly meeting of the Brindlewood Bay Murder Mavens. You meet every week in the Candlelight Bookseller in central Brindlewood Bay. And you actually have a little upstairs space in the bookshop that is like your little clubhouse, right? That's been set aside for your book club meetings, which tells you a little bit about either how busy the Candlelight Bookshop is or how busy you all are on a Saturday night. I mean, one or the other. The camera moves past your vignettes. We see the sun slowly starting to set. The town kind of blocking out the last light of the sun. We follow the camera into the top floor of the Candlelight Bookseller. So the camera pans around this kind of loft area. You've been holding your Murder Mavens meetings in here for a while. So what do we see that shows how the club have kind of personalized the space? Erin, what do you think is in here that kind of reflects the character of the club members?
I think we've solved mysteries before, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So I think there would be like a victory wall of newspaper articles of all the mysteries that, of course, the stupid sheriff or whatever has taken credit for, but we in our hearts know that we're the ones that really caught him.
Mm-hmm. All right. So okay, great. So you got almost like a little display of your kind of past solves. All right, terrific. And you're having your meeting. So here's a question. Do we think that the Murder Mavens book club are a tea book club or are they a wine book club?
Definitely.
Wine?
Why not both?
I'm in my herbal teas.
Okay, so you're sipping your herbal tea, but yeah. So this is the question, because I've had games go both to the Murder Mavens are, tea sipping old ladies, or the Murder Mavens are task force wine mom, and either is fine. All right, terrific. As you are finishing your meeting, however, you hear footsteps coming up the stairs, and the more observant among you may actually recognize them as the footsteps of your... He's not your nemesis, but he's not your ally either. He's like your fremesis. Brindlewood County Sheriff Wyman Dalrymple. So,
that useless man.
Yeah, he's you have an ongoing relationship with Sheriff Dalrymple. I'm just adding his portrait to the board. I will say, so as part of the process of solving this case, you have to choose which of a number of suspects is the culprit. And there are actually, there are defined suspects in each mystery. And one of the curiosities of Dad Overboard is that Sheriff Dalrymple is a suspect. He is on the list. So you could blame this killing on Sheriff Dalrymple. Anyway, Sheriff Dalrymple arrives, and you can see that he's not happy to be here. And he tells you, after a certain amount of, getting heckled, I imagine, he says in a kind of exasperated tone, listen, look, I don't like being here any more than you like having me here, but the fact is, I need your help with something.
Of course you do, you incompetent bastard.
Rosemary, let the man speak. I mean, can't hurt, can it?
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, listen, believe me, no one's more frustrated about having to ask for help from a bunch of old amateurs than I am. But
Wyman, do get to the point.
But the situation is urgent. All right, fine. And now, Andrew Krause, the financier. His body washed up on the shores of Brindlewood Bay earlier today. His family are vacationing in the area, and they claim that he got drunk and fell off the yacht. And they want to reclaim his body and sail back to Boston. But of course, what that means is that if there was any foul play, then we would not be able to investigate it without the body. And now listen, I don't need you to solve the case.
Oh, right? Good. We can leave then. Bye.
Then what I need is a reason to keep the body. Unless I can come up with a good reason to persuade the Grouses.
Are you going to do with it, you weirdo?
We're gonna, the coroner. See, listen, look. Despite the fact that Brindlewood Bay has the highest homicide rate in the United States, we don't actually have a morgue as such. So the body is being kept in the cold storage at the Brindlewood Bay Fish Market. You can Etienne Beauregard, the fishmonger. He apparently is old friends with the Krause family, and he said that they could keep it there, but they're agitating to leave. Now, currently, their yacht, the Regal Lady, is anchored, out in the harbor, but I can't keep them here forever. So, in the past, you ladies have, stumbled on some relevant clues, and maybe that luck will apply this time. I'll put a sheriff's department vessel at your disposal, and Deputy Barney can drive or pilot or whatever. And you just let me know whatever you find as soon as you can.
Wyman, do you have a reason to think that there is foul play involved?
Well,
he does. He killed him.
I did not. Having out. Well, good thinking. Don't rule anybody out. There's a lot of money involved. Obviously, Andrew Krause is a very wealthy man, so there's a motive there. None of the family members all claim that they didn't see what happened, which, it's a big yacht, but it's not that big. I don't know. It just seems suspicious to me.
And we do live in Brindlewood Bay.
Well, you got to remember that, people from other places don't have the same natural sense of nautical safety that Brindle folk do.
I'm sure that's what Susan meant. Absolutely.
So, yeah. So, you could go out, like I said, I'll give you Barney in the boat, and you can go out and talk to the Krauses. They're all out on the Painted Lady at the moment. Or if you want to go down to the fish market, maybe take a look at the body, the kind of thing you guys enjoy. Either of those would be a good place to start, or just do your thing. I know that you have unconventional methods.
I have an important question, Sheriff.
Yes.
Would you like a sponge madeleine? They're freshly baked.
Yeah, listen, this isn't a murder investigation. I would actually, yes, I would like a sponge madeleine. Yes, thank you.
They're very good.
They're the best.
It's moist, but also flaky. All right. So, like Sheriff Dalrymple said, he's going to put Barney at disposal. But there is one thing that you did not mention to Sheriff Dalrymple while he was here. And that is, Damien, Patricia actually has already met one of the Krause family. So there, in fact, you met one of Andrew Krause's children. He has 3 children. So the eldest daughter, Sarah, the younger daughter, Emily, and the middle child is a son called David. So Emily is a homemaker. David runs an art gallery in Boston, and Emily is some kind of computer person. Which of these three do you think you have encountered in the past?
I'll go with Emily. She was the computer person, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. I'll go with Emily, I think.
So what were the circumstances there?
That I met Emily.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I think I know one of the children, Emily. I was having trouble with my laptop, you see, and I was trying to press enter, and I couldn't find the enter key. So I called one of these fancy helplines, and I got this Emily Krause lady, girl, and she's very, very nice. And Spot, Laura, did you not put a coaster under your cup?
I hadn't put it down yet, Patricia. I'm sure there's a coaster. Yeah.
Oh, I must get that. Scrub. Oh, Laura, what have I told you about that?
So you were telling us about Emily. It must be a thing about Emily,
yes,
that they work with computers.
Emily. Yes,
My Emily does too.
Oh, yes, your dear Emily. You should tell us more about her.
But you were telling us about Emily Krause.
Oh, yes, Emily Krause. Yes, well, she's into computers, and she's a lovely young girl. Maybe we could go talk to her. Maybe there's some maybe she knows about some discontent in the family.
So Dalrymple will give you the passenger manifest for the Regal Lady. I mean, manifest. It's a piece of paper with a list of names on it. So there was Andrew Krause, of course, his wife Amanda Krause. There are 3 children: Sarah, David, and Emily, and the butler Andrews, who is genuinely just says Andrews, like it doesn't even have his first name. So those were supposed to be, anyway, the only people on the Regal Lady last night. Let me just I'm just adding a list of them to the
good. I was gonna write them down, but yeah,
to the whiteboard. Where would you like to begin your investigation?
I think it would be important if we looked at the body first, just to see if there's any information that we can have before we question anybody. We can come to the table with a little ammunition in the gun, so to speak.
That seems fair. Seems fair to me. Do any of us know anything about inspecting bodies? I mean, if the town doesn't have a morgue, does it have an undertaker or a medical examiner or anyone?
It certainly does not have a medical examiner. There is a Brindlewood County coroner, but he's not going to be able to get down here till Monday.
Well, you do know that with my herbalism medical background, I can fix that body up tip-toppy shape.
Well, we don't necessarily need to be able to tell what kind of specific weapon was used or if there was a kind of poison or anything like that, but we could look at the body and see if there's any strange injuries or maybe some clue, an item that would be on their person. I don't know, but the only way we're going to find out is if we go. So let's pack up and hit the case. The game is afoot, ladies.
All right. Fantastic. So you're going to head to now. I maybe made a mistake a little bit when I picked Patricia for knowing Emily, because the thing is, Patricia, that you actually also know the guy who has the body, Etienne Beauregard, because you are fellow seafood professionals. Right, like you were a champion fish cleaner.
Yes, indeed.
And
she was
a fishmonger. Yes. So I'm just going to real quickly upload Etienne to the thing. He is on the list of suspects. Dad overboard. Etienne Beauregard. Etienne Beauregard, I'm going to say right now, and I'm not saying that I am flawless at accents in any way, but Etienne's wandering accent is not me messing up my accents. He's just kind of like that. So Etienne Beauregard is from somewhere in the Francophone world. Where exactly is not clear. So when you so Etienne is delighted to see you. he sees Patricia, and he's like, "Oh, Patricia, when are you going to come back to the world?"
No.
You are wasted in retirement. Why, I've seen you got a 10-kilogram tunny with a single stroke of your knife.
Oh, you flatterer. Oh,
what can Etienne do for all you beautiful ladies today?
Ooh. Well, these are all my friends. This is Susan. This is Laura. This is Rosemary. This is Ronnie.
Lovely to
Why were
meet
those
you.
all questions?
And
sorry, go on. What can I do for you?
I think you might have a body here.
Well, it's always been said that I have it's a dead body. No, that's true. Yeah, it's actually very sad. I jest because I laugh in the face of death, but actually, Andrew Krauss was my old friend. In fact, I would not have succeeded in the cutthroat world of fishmongering if it wasn't for the assistance of the Krauss family. So, as soon as they asked me, they need somewhere cold to put the body, I was more than happy to make room between the cod and the pollock. But
when's the last time you saw Andrew?
Oh,
Mr. Andrews.
We drifted up. Andrew, I know, he's confusing. There's yes, in fact, his name is Albert, not Andrew. I got those mixed up. The deceased name Albert Krauss, not Andrew Krauss. Obviously, I knew that because he's my old friend for many years. Well, actually, I would say over the last few years, he has become a little. We had drifted apart. He chose to pursue the world of finance, and I chose to pursue the world of fish. So we don't see each other very often, unless he come to Brindlewood Bay for vacation. But
did he drop in on you before going sailing?
No, I did not see him this time. I was expecting to.
You were expecting to see him, but he didn't drop in. Get any
well,
fish.
We don't make plans, anybody from. He always know where Etienne is to be found. All right, so it sounds like you're trying to get information out of Etienne. So it sounds like this is an example of the meddling move.
All right.
So because you're trying to do it conversationally, I guess that the relevant stat is probably presence, which is good news for you, Chris, because that is Susan's highest stat. Yes. So go ahead and roll 2d6 as your presence and tell me what you get.
Chris did tell us before that he was poor, had some bad rolls in this game, so let's see if he can break this.
I've already broken the record. I rolled a 7. I rolled a 7 plus 2
makes it a 9.
Is a 9,
very
which
good.
I don't think is any difference.
Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't make any difference. 7 and 9 are the same result. So that means that you get a success, but there is going to be a downside. So let's take a second and see what the meddling move says. There is a complication, either with the clue itself or a complication you encounter while searching. So, okay. The clue that you get is going to be so Etienne says he kind of looks around a little bit and sort of beckons you to come into the back of his little fish tank, because the Brindlewood fish market is like a big, it's one of those covered markets that has lots of little different sort of stalls or shops in it, right? So he kind of beckons you to come behind the counter. It's very cold back here and it smells of seafood. And he says he was concerned about something, I think. He sent me a photograph, and he pulls out his phone, scrolls through a bunch of photographs, which are all like just mostly of fish. Well, this is what he sent me, but he didn't want to talk about it over the phone, he said. And he shows you a photograph of a cod with a rat stuffed into its mouth. So, And again, he looks around, very concerned, like trying to make sure that nobody overhears this.
What does this mean exactly? Is he trying to say that the cod ate the mouse?
And again, he looks at me. I don't know. Moi, je sais rien.
Huh. Cod and a mouse. I see. That is peculiar.
All right. So while he is talking to Susan, the rest of you are kind of like, you're standing, looking around the fish market. So Rafe, why don't you tell me, what does Ronnie see that reminds her why she loves or hates the Brindlewood Bay Fish Market?
I think Ronnie dislikes the Brindlewood Bay fish market because the one thing she always struggles to get right is fish pie, and the smell of the fish reminds her that her one failing as a baker. So she is disgruntled to be here.
No, this place smells like adversity and also like just a little bit of parsley. And so as you're looking around, so you see all the hawkers selling fish, and it's very like it's very theatrical. This place, it's very like for the tourists, right? Like, oh, look at all this quaint New England scrod, right? There's scrod everywhere. And you notice for a moment, like as your eye pans across the crowd, you get a brief glimpse of someone watching you intently. And then, like, you kind of like whip back and you realize they're gone. But there was someone in the crowd who was watching watching you, watching the stall, watching Etienne. You're not sure, but it was looking right at you. And Chris, I'm going to update Susan's sheet with a condition. So you now have a condition being watched.
Okay.
Okay. So he shows you the picture, and then he says, well, I suppose you want to see the body, huh?
Oh yes, that's why we're here.
Yeah. He gives you a key to the cold storage, and he says, you go in there and take as long as you need, but I can't watch. It's terrible to see my old friend lying there among the langoustines. Just it's tragic.
Understandable. Thank you, Etienne.
And it is pretty horrible in here. So I mean, basically, you're in a huge walk-in freezer. As soon as you come in, instantly your breath starts to mist up. Rosemary, you're feeling very self-satisfied about your wardrobe choices, like you're toasty warm. But Patricia and Susan, you kind of regretting it. But yeah, so here you're here in the cold storage, and I imagine you want to kind of check Albert Krauss himself for clues. So who, like, as you say, this is not necessarily like who's got the expertise in examining a body. Honestly, it's a meddling move. So it's not a question of coming up with it's not a question of coming up with an explanation that will allow you to make the roll. It's just you explain to me how you're doing it, unless, Danielle, you want to use your Maven move, because obviously you may not have a surgical suite or like a lab, but if you could to explain to the audience, Danielle's Maven move is the Angus MacGyver, which allows her to do tasks using unusual equipment. So if we can think of 3 things you might find in a fish market that Laura can turn into into an autopsy lab, you could get advantage on this action.
Well, team.
Yeah, Erin.
I was also thinking alternatively Winston might be able to help by like sniffing the body and smelling anything off with it.
I'm going to suggest that a fish market is the last place your cat is going to be allowed to use. Like, they will not let him in here.
All right, Winston's in my bag then. Good point.
Yeah. Winston and the fish market staff are old enemies. Sure, yes, you can pop them out of the bag, whichever. So what do we reckon?
I'm happy to try a MacGyver. If the team can come up with 3 items that are in the cold store with us, we'll see what I can do with them. Well, they can be elsewhere
in the fish market too. That's fine.
An ice pick.
Okay, so we've got an ice pick. So someone else from the Mavens want to nominate a second object?
A fish gutter knife, one of those.
Okay. An ice pick, a fish gutting knife.
Yep.
Some super glue.
And some super glue. All right.
Some super glue. Okay. Super glue.
I can already think of one way you can use super glue to in a forensic capacity, which I'm sure is what Chris had in mind. Yeah. And that's just going off my own personal experience as someone who gets super glue all over their hands all the time. All right. So Danielle, so you have an ice pick, a fish gutting knife, and some super glue. How are you going to use these to search Albert Krause's body for clues?
Okay. Now, I presume Albert's body has just been sort of laid out, hasn't really been interfered with very much.
Yeah, so that's right. Still... They found him. They like tried to revive him probably, and then they brought him right here. But he's still got his clothes on, everything.
Well, I don't necessarily want to be trying to do an actual autopsy, given that I'm probably not authorized to cut the body up.
Yeah, okay.
And his family might be a little upset. And it's pretty obvious who would do it, given that Etienne's keeping the body for them. But I don't think anyone is going to have an issue if I use that gutting knife to carefully lift his clothes away from the body and perhaps cut them away from the body so that I can look at him in detail. And I'm not really sure that the ice pick is terribly useful for anything other than checking how stiff his limbs are by comparison. You know, lifting the head up gently to see if it lolls or if it's rigor mortis. Mm-hmm. He was picked up this evening from the shore. If he did drown when he's supposed to have drowned, rigor mortis should only just be setting in.
And finally, the super glue?
And the super glue, you and Chris must have an interesting common thought thread, because I have no idea what super glue could be used for forensically. Like, I could hide his fingerprints, but I can't think what I would do that would help me figure something out.
And also just, I mean, again, this is MacGyver, right? So I don't know if you ever saw MacGyver, but they were not too bound by
reality,
real world plausibility.
Yeah.
So what do you, I mean, again, I will reveal the super glue thing. It is a fun piece of trivia, not a plot point. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So do whatever you want with the super glue.
Trying to see if he drowned or not.
Mm-hmm. So you're trying to like find water like in his lungs or whatever, or in his passages. So how does super glue help you do that?
I mean, I guess I could stab the knife in through his ribs and then back together. That's about
It's
all
fantastic.
I've
So you can use the super glue to repair your incisions once you're done. Terrific. So the thing that I had in mind about super glue is that the fumes from super glue, if they're next to like a surface like plastic, will kind of frost on it, and one of the things that frost will do is reveal fingerprints. Because the oils or whatever turn they're a bit whiter than the other things. It's super. If you've ever tried to glue like the cockpit on a model airplane, and you used super glue instead of polystyrene cement like you're supposed to, it frosted up, and you could see your own grubby child fingerprints on the canopy. That was what I was thinking of. But so let's do it. So this is a meddling move using reason, and you have advantage because you MacGyvered. So you get to roll 3 dice and pick the best 2.
All right.
And your reason is plus 2.
Yep.
Wow.
You are the brains of the outfit.
So that gives me a 12.
Excellent.
Ooh, excellent. Well, good roll.
So that gives you a bonus effect. First you're going to find the clue. And the clue is that your suspicion is exactly right. The condition of the body, like Sheriff Dalrymple and his deputies, like, were misled by the temperature of this room when they like tried to figure out how long he'd been dead. Or they just like trusted the witness accounts too much. But you are certain that Albert Krauss died before Sheriff Dalrymple told you he was supposed to have gone in the water. Right? The time of death is wrong. And so I'm going to tick off the clue, a misreported detail about the time of death. And I'll add it to the clue list on the whiteboard. So we've got a cod with a rat stuffed in its mouth and a misreported detail about time of death. However, as a bonus, so we're going to, on a 12 plus, you also find a void clue. Now, a void clue is something, this would be more significant if we were running a longer game.
Okay.
But so Brindlewood Bay consists of a series of like individual mysteries, but they're united by a narrative arc. And the void clues are clues that reveal the arc, right? The season plot. So there's individual episode plots, but then there's a season plot. So you get a clue for the season plot. And the season plot is going to be a strange tattoo on Albert Krauss's body. It looks a little bit like I'll upload an image to the thing, but it looks like a circle, one half white and the other half black, but covered in little like white dots. You look at it and you kind of, you think, huh? And then when you look at it again, you're sure that the first time you looked at it, it was the other side of the tattoo that was white.
Right.
So I know nothing about tattoos. I don't even know if you can have, can you tattoo with white ink? I have no clue, but
you can.
Yeah. Okay, great. Fantastic. It's just quite hard to see in this, the fluorescent light of the cold storage. But yeah, that's probably what it was. The lighting's not fantastic in here. Well, why would the cold storage need to be brightly lit? But yeah, it's a bit weird. It also doesn't, this captain of industry and finance guy doesn't seem like a tattoo kind of guy, but oh well, times are changing. Okay. So you have gathered some clues at the Brindlewood Bay fish market. What is your next step? What's the next piece of information you want to gather?
And we go visit Emily.
Yeah, absolutely. Now Emily is with the rest of the family. She's on the Regal Lake.
On the ship.
They're all there, so you can absolutely take the boat out and go talk to the Krauss family.
Yes.
Although that might be, maybe that's what we want to do last. Do we want to do anything else before then?
No, I think we should talk to the family.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
I mean, if nothing else, they can probably confirm for us exactly when it was that they last saw Albert alive, given that he absolutely died earlier than Wyman said.
Mm.
All right. Okay. So you head down like the sort of the touristy waterfront of Brindlewood Bay to the actual Brindlewood Bay Marina, where Sheriff Dalrymple's deputy Barney Tran is waiting on a on one of the sheriff's department boats. Right, a lot of water work in the Brindlewood County Sheriff's Department. Barney is simultaneously a good boy and like not a good detective.
I'm gonna go up and pinch his cheeks. How you doing, Barney?
Hey, this is official Sheriff's County, but yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
You look like you lost weight. Have you been eating properly, young man?
Yeah, give him a cookie.
Oh well. I mean, I should. Well, but they are gone. But losing weight is good. That's. Or I mean, like I'm on paleo now because they had cookies in the Stone Age, right? Like, so he takes the boat out to the Regal Lady, which is riding at anchor, just out beyond the curve of the harbor of Brindlewood Bay itself. So there's you go up the side. As you step aboard the yacht, what do you see, Chris? What do you see that indicates that these people have more money than they know what to do with?
There is solid gold fish sculptures inlaid to the side of the ship. All over the place.
Fantastic. And it's all and the whole thing is like that, right? It's all incredibly like overdone. It's all very conspicuous display of wealth. And you're greeted by Andrews, who is again, I'm just gonna, in fact, I tell you what, I'm just gonna upload the remaining because they're all here. And I also have the victim. Albert, Amanda, Andrews. Oh, I can't. Oh, okay. Well, anyway. So give me a second. I'll just Andrews. But Andrews, I mean, like I said, he was a butler, and he looks like a butler. And so he just says, good evening, ladies. Welcome aboard the Regal Lady. I am Andrews. Mrs. Krause is in the forecastle. Sarah is in her stateroom. David is on the bridge. And Emily is in another word for part of a boat.
Is there a Mrs. Andrews by any chance?
He looks.
Rosemary, you flirt.
He looks like sadly out across the water.
Oh
says,
no!
No, I'm afraid not.
Do you like cats by any chance?
Can I? How can I direct your inquiry?
Well, let's speak to Amanda first.
All right. So you decide to go talk to Amanda, who is in the forecastle. It's really weird. It says forecastle on the deck plan, but Andrews definitely said forecastle. Anyway, and she's talking agitatedly on her phone as you arrive, and like puts her hand over the thing. What is it? What?
Ooh, well, how rude.
Susan, you're up.
Yeah, hi. Sorry to interrupt, but we had some questions about your husband's death.
I could call you back. I'm so it's just like Albert to go and get himself killed when I'm on the precipice of charity fundraiser greatness. The man could be so self-involved.
Mm.
Men,
Yes.
really.
Yeah,
terrible.
well, I know. Well, okay. Now, who is she looking down on? She's looking down on Patricia, right? So okay.
I thought it would be. Yep.
Yeah, she'll turn her nose up at you, because that is actually one of your abilities. That is your Maven move, the Frank Columbo, which causes the wealthy and powerful to overlook you, which means that if you meddle in a place occupied by the rich and famous, you can find a clue even if you miss, or find 2 clues if you succeed. So you find 1 more clue than you normally would, even if what you normally would find would be 0.
I see a boat search in our future.
Yes.
Yes.
So
Although it only works once. So she's. Who does anyone have charity events as their thing? I don't think so. Okay.
I don't think so.
So she says, it's just that we're almost ready for our big charity event. I am the chairman of a charity that raises money for veterans with testicular cancer. And our big charity gala, the Warriors Ball, is in only 2 weeks. And she hands you a liar. Yeah. The nation's premier charity event raising awareness for veterans with testicular cancer. But so, yeah. So yeah. So I mean, I'm whatever it is. What do you want? Just tell me. Who are you people anyway?
We're the Mystery Mavens.
Oh, of course, she says, as if like, like
the sheriff has enlisted our aid in uncovering the truth about your husband's premature demise.
Well, that's very kind of him, I suppose. I don't know why he thinks there's something worth investigating. Obviously, Albert just got drunk as usual and fell over the gunnel. I almost told him it was going to happen.
When did you last see your husband?
At dinner last night. We all dined together. It's one of the wonderful things about our little family getaways. He was already drinking by that point. And after that, I went to enjoy the view on the part of a boat, the poop deck. And I don't know where he went, but then the first thing I noticed was when he didn't join us for a nightcap, which was very unlike him.
So if you were out on the deck, wouldn't you have heard like a splash or like seen the body go in?
Oh well, I mean, the Regal Lady. It's not. I understand. This isn't one of your little Yankee cabin cruisers. This is this is well, I wouldn't call it a mega yacht, but it is a super yacht. And you can both be on the deck and be quite far apart from each other. And the superstructure does get in the way a little bit. So he probably fell in one of the back boat parts, the aft. And I didn't see him.
But you didn't hear it either? You didn't hear anything?
Not that I recall, no. All right. So let's introduce the other suspects, and then we can decide how you want to meddle or what your approach is going to be. Because they probably I don't know that they merit a meddling move apiece.
Okay, got it.
So the other members of the family are on board. You get to see. So when you meet Sarah, a bit. Sarah seems a little out of place with the rest of her family. She's kind of frumpy looking. No, this one down here is Sarah. Frumpy looking, sort of cowed almost, but she seems really upset. Unlike her mother. She's like, do you really think someone could have murdered my father? It's too horrible to contemplate. Oh, I wish I were back at home in Boston with my kids.
There, dear.
Yeah. She definitely responds to motherly sympathy very well. Sorry, you were saying, Chris.
Your children. You have children. Why don't you bring them to your family gatherings?
Oh, they stay with my husband. So, Ted, I did come on a few of the family vacations, early in our marriage. And eventually we decided, I have to come, obviously, but that this would be a good time for the kids to visit Ted's parents. It's just an unavoidable scheduling conflict. He'd love to be here, of course, but
right.
But it just it was the only time that they could do it.
Oh, Sarah, I understand completely.
But you really think that my father was murdered? Who could do such a terrible thing?
We're not positive about it, but definitely there's some discrepancies in the reports the eyewitnesses were giving and the actual facts of the matter. Isn't that right, Laura? No, Danielle. No, Laura.
Laura.
It might not have been murder. There could always have been an accident. It's just a case of whether he drowned or not.
Yeah, accidentally stabbed and then pushed in and then drowned.
We didn't see any signs of stabbing.
I'm not ruling it
out. You also get to talk to David. So David, like his mother, doesn't seem that concerned. He's got kind of avant-garde fashion sense. He's you get the impression that he'd just rather not be here. He wants to go back to Boston, where he runs an art gallery. He's polite but kind of disinterested. He says, I'm reminded, of course, of the great performance artist Gao Bai, who was so committed to his work. He threw himself from the top of a 5-story building, the ultimate artistic expression.
Oh,
no. If only my father's death could have been so extravagant. He lacked vision.
I'm out.
Well, what do you know about your father's death, young man? And must I say, you are so cute.
Oh, he seems quite disappointed by that response. I don't know anything about it. It was an accident. He got drunk and fell over. That's what Mother said.
Did you see him after dinner?
Did I see him after dinner? No, I was in the lounge. Is that a thing? I was in the room where all the chairs are. For most of the evening, reading. I've never really been one for the nautical life, so I thought since I'm here and the reception is terrible and so forth, I thought I'd catch up on some of my reading. So I read for a couple of hours, and then I didn't realize that anything was wrong until I joined Mother and Emily and Sarah for a drink before bed, and Dad didn't show up. But I didn't see or hear anything.
Did you like your father, young man?
No. That's a very complicated question. Asking me again, not the day after he died.
Okay.
You folks don't seem terribly familiar with this boat. Is it new?
Oh, no. Well, we've had this for a little while, but I don't it's not like I sail it myself,
Do you have a lot of crew who sail it for you?
Yeah. They work for a company. They're hired for the thing.
Oh.
They exist for logical reasons, like obviously this boat don't sail itself, but they are not suspects, and they will not be individualized because there'd be too many people. Yeah, like that. When Columbo does the cruise ship murder, he really focuses in on 2 or 3 guys. Not the hundreds and hundreds of people who would be on it. All right. And finally, you meet Emily, who, of course, Patricia, you've previously had an encounter with, which she does not remember at all. Obviously, she does seem to have kind of come on in the world since her tech support days. She works for a startup that doesn't have enough vowels in its name, and she's kind of always on her phone. She's really annoyed by the fact that the reception's not good on a boat in the Atlantic Ocean. But she keeps like you'll say something, she'll be like, oh, listen, can we put a pin in this, like we'll circle back later, I gotta just answer this DM real quick.
Emily, don't you remember me? You fixed my enter key.
Oh, yes,
you remembered me. And she gives her a big hug. Oh, I missed you.
Clearly a little uncomfortable about this. Like, human contact, don't know what to do. So she and she gives you kind of the same story that everybody else gave, right? That they had dinner together, then they all went off to kind of like, they don't seem to get on very well, so they all kind of went off to do solitary things. And then she didn't see or hear anything, and the first time she realized her father was missing was when he didn't turn up, for the traditional nightcap. Now, so how do you want to approach this, what I assume will be some meddling?
Is there anything porcelain on board in terms of, looks really something that a woman who collects porcelain frogs, but not necessarily frogs, but might find appealing?
Well, sure. There's a couple of like knickknacks. Traditionally, right, porcelain and other like fragile ceramics have not been super popular at sea, except where they had to be. But yeah, there's maybe a few. Definitely there's certainly some objet d'art, here and there around this yacht. Yeah.
I think Patricia's going to go look, just have a look over the porcelain. Anything nice that she could add to her collection? Not that she'd steal it, but
okay. So you are, and you will absolutely have a moment where you're like, oh, I like this porcelain thing, and Andrews will be like, that was made during the Sung Dynasty. It is 900 years old. Please do not fondle it or suggest that it would have a good home in your collection. And he says the words as if they taste like poison.
And
porcelain frogs. So you see clearly the moment where he just where he takes your name and drops it in the file marked idiot, right? And so therefore his attention is distracted, allowing you to snoop for clues among the objet d'art, the regal lady.
And Patricia thinks she's smarter than she is, so she's like, "Oh, the Sung Dynasty. Oh, yes, that's a Japanese dynasty, of course. Yes."
Let me know if I can be of assistance in any other way, madam.
Oh my God, it's Professor Snape.
Flies off.
I might help Patricia be unnoticed by distracting Andrews by asking him the same questions. When was the last time he actually saw Albert? Presumably he saw him after dinner, maybe.
Yeah, so Andrews does tell you that he saw him. So he kind of seems to be the leg that the story is resting on, right? Because he says that he saw Mr. Krause on the quarter deck in the back, yeah. Looking out over the booms or past the bits, not the booms. And enjoying a drink. And then he went off to go do something else. And when he came back, he was gone. And he just assumed, he had gone somewhere else and he had just missed him while he was answering a call from another part of the ship, right? He has like a little, like they don't have a bell because they're on a ship. So he has like a little, basically like a pager. Mm-hmm. And he says he got a call. So he went off to go, bring a drink or a canapé or whatever it was. And then when he came back, he was not there. And so at the time he thought, I thought nothing of it, but apparently he must have encountered a tragic accident.
Now, can I do a cozy move? Because I'm doing something related to my collecting.
Yes.
Maybe with Laura?
Yes, absolutely. So, yes. So this is our first cozy move. So let's briefly review how they work. A cozy move is an intimate moment with another maven while one of you is engaged in your cozy activity. Laura is searching. Alternatively, yeah. Okay, great. So you and Laura are now. So now, what that means is that you must be primarily actually, so you're actually looking at porcelain.
Yeah.
Right. You're not intending to snoop for clues while doing this. You're just looking for porcelain.
Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. Tell me about this cozy break that you're taking in the middle of a murder investigation to look at porcelain tchotchkes.
And so I think how it works, I can ask a player a question about their maven or something. Is that?
Yeah. So there are 4 things you can do, and you get one of these is special because it is your cozy activity, right? So when someone else is in your cozy scene, you get to choose 2 things, right? You can ask the other player a question of their maven, which they must answer. Mm-hmm. You can get a maven to agree to something, and if they don't agree, they take a condition. You can clear a condition if you have one, which currently you don't. Mm-hmm. And if you're doing your cozy activity, you can accidentally stumble on a clue.
Oh yeah, I want to do that.
Okay, so you get 2 things. So one can be accidentally stumble on a clue. What do you want to do for the other one? I mean, really, the only thing you can do is learn something about Laura, right? Because you don't have any conditions. Yeah. And I don't think you have anything that you're disagreeing about what to do.
Yeah, no, I guess I'll learn something about Laura then. I think.
All right. So this is you asking Danielle, and then Danielle will incorporate that thing about Laura into the conversation, right? You don't necessarily have to ask Laura. It can just come up in the conversation between your characters. So what do you want to come up, Damien?
I want to come up that Laura may have. You a journalist, Laura, in previous life? Mm-hmm. Laura may have. Actually,
you ask the question.
So I ask it of her. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
So what's the question?
Okay. So Laura, I actually wondered about this, and I kind of insinuated from some of the conversations that we've had that perhaps you didn't get your journalism degree through right and proper means, perhaps?
Oh, Patricia, this whole concept of journalism degrees, I mean, it's very new. It's like look at the frog that Susan got you for your last birthday. That lovely blue one.
Oh, it was beautiful.
It is beautiful. But if you compare that frog to, say, that vase over there, the one that you were fondling.
Oh yes. I love a good fondle.
Don't we all? Don't we all? Such a shame Jonathan's gone. But there's a difference between the vase and the blue frog. Journalism degrees are like the blue frog. They're new. People didn't used to need them. We just wrote.
So how did you get your job then?
Well, I started writing letters to the editor, and I went and had an interview with the local paper's editor, and he let me edit some of the columns. There was a column, that was how I began. I had a column about local charity events. And after I did well with the column for a few months, he made it a regular feature. It wasn't all about charity events at that point, but it just cannonballed on from there, really. Is that the term, cannonball? I wrote every week, and then I'd go and talk to people and write about what they were interested in. I mean, I've probably even met Amanda Krause before, but she probably wouldn't remember. I mean, she's been running these charity events since forever.
So while you're having this conversation, you reach one of these like little display stand plinth things, and you see that. So all of them are a little bit bleached by the sun, but in the center of this one, there is a dark patch, as though something had been on the plinth that had been protecting it from fading. But now in the center of that dark patch, there is a different, it's a vase, but it doesn't quite fit the dark patch on the plinth. So there was something here that was larger until relatively recently. It's but that has been gone. And as you search around, you find a tiny fragment of porcelain in the like trapped between, I was going to say the floor, but the deck, and I was going to say the wall, but the bulkhead. There's a little tiny broken piece of pottery. So that's going to give you a new clue. That's which I will add to the list. 3. So you are in the and you can tell with your knowledge of pottery that this is that this is a very expensive vase that was broken, and you are in the main room that I don't know what it's called, not the galley, but you know that you are where David claims to have been on the night of Albert's death. So I think if it's all right with you guys, I don't know what your stream schedule is like, but would it be okay if we called a short break at this point? Would that be all right?
Yeah, sure.
Can we put up a back in a minute sign?
That's what I usually do. Yeah.
Refill my drink. I'm very pleased that you came onto the yacht, because that way you were talking to all the characters who don't have deep gravelly voices. It's a little demeaning. But yeah, so we'll reconvene in 5 minutes, if that's all right with everyone else.
Perfect.
Great.
Break time.
Thank you so much.
Right,
We'll be right back
5 minutes
after these messages.
And
if some of us get back early, we can do a commercial break.
Yes.
All right, fantastic.
All right, we are back.
Yeah, okay. I have a bad habit of not muting the call, but just hitting the mute button on my mic and then forgetting that I've done that. So, but I've not done it this time, so that's okay. Okay. So welcome back, everybody. So, while Laura and Patricia have been looking at porcelain, how about the rest of the mavens? You are you're free, to go wherever you want to and talk to whoever you want to here on the Regal Lady. So, what is your move? Why don't we start with you, Erin? Oh, I'm sorry, I did it just as you were about to take a drink. I'm sorry, that was very rude of me.
No, you're okay. Oh, look, I really don't trust the wife. Is there some way I can press further with her?
Yeah, absolutely. So, are you going to go and attempt to socially pressure her, bully her, or are you intending to follow her? What's your move?
Ooh. Yeah, no, I think a montage of me and Winston following her in a very overdramatic stealth way.
Okay, so you are trying to snoop. All right. Okay. So you see her, she's going around the Regal Lady. She seems to be taking a lot of calls relating to the forthcoming Warriors Ball. She she eats a muffin. She doesn't seem that concerned. At one point, however, you do notice that she takes some documents from a folder in one of the staterooms, or she comes out of one of the staterooms holding this this folder, and there's a moment where you suddenly realize she's going to the rail.
Oh, to throw it off?
Yeah, that's what it seems to you.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be Winston, distract
Okay.
and get him to circle her legs or something, like a cat on a boat. That's weird.
He's not comfortable here, but he's your faithful companion. He's always kind of complaining, right? But so you're gonna try and get Winston to throw up her legs. So you're gonna try and grab this stuff from her. Now, this I think this is a day move. You are doing something risky because they're not going to be a big fan of you grappling their mom, no matter the circumstances. But so now, because you're using Winston, you can get advantage on this move.
Amazing.
You're gonna use your vitality, which is a 0.
Shit.
So roll 3d6 and pick the highest 2. We'd like a 7, but we'd really like a 10.
Oh, that just didn't even roll. Oh, all right. I keep rolling them off the table. Oh, oh shit. A 9.
Okay, that is a success. But here's what's going to happen. It's a partial success, right? So what's happening? So there are 2 things that can happen. The first is you can succeed, but in a way that leaves you vulnerable. And I'm going to tell you what's going to leave you vulnerable, and then you can decide whether or not to go through with tackling Amanda. Alternatively, you could put on a crown to bump your partial success up to a total success. But here's what I'm going to say. You're going to be able to seize the clue from Amanda, but not without obviously mugging her. And then she's going to get irate and tell you to get off her boat. which and this isn't that kind of game. Like when they ask you to leave, you're going to have to go.
Yeah.
So you can get this clue but get thrown off the boat. And you'll gain a condition which is like, not allowed where the Krauses are or whatever. Or you can decide not to do it at all, because the partial success means you can choose whether to do it or not. Or you could put on a crown and just bump up to a complete success.
What's the consequence of the crown again?
You just only have a certain number of them. So you'd have to tick off one of your crown boxes. So in a long-term game, this would be more of a concern because you don't ever untick them. So you only have so many get-out-of-jail-free cards. But in a one-shot, you might as well.
Okay, I'll tick off a crown.
Okay, so you can tick off a crown of the queen, probably. So that means you have to choose one. So there are seven crowns of the queen. 4 of them are flashback scenes and 3 of them are present day scenes. You don't have to do the scene now. We can work it into a later part of the game. You don't have to do it before the session ends.
No, I think
so go.
As I see like me encouraging my cat to be on a boat, I think that's a great example of how I am an imperfect mother. So I flash back to years of doing stupid, kooky shenanigans with Winston when he really doesn't want to, and me just encouraging him with fish.
So we get this flashback of you, using Winston basically to do crimes. Tell me some of the kinds of things that you might use Winston to have done.
He helped me get out of a parking ticket by just being really cute and getting belly rubs. What else would I have done? Or like sometimes maybe being more focused on the crime than being focused on Winston himself. I've definitely dressed him up in hilarious outfits. Like if we have to like be undercover, then I dress him up as a little kid and put him in a baby stroller or something, and he doesn't like it.
So you're like as you send Winston into battle, you kind of like get this you kind of get this you can't shake this lingering feeling that maybe actually like that what Winston wants to do is like sleep and like be rubbed on the tummy and like eat food, and you think, actually maybe this isn't like, this is kind of a self-centered thing to do, to like make your cat do crime tricks, but you don't. You suppress the thought, but it's kind of there. You sort of still have it, like, maybe this is not like the most generous thing you could do. However, it does work. So you send Winston like curls around her legs, and she goes, oh, like a cat on a boat, like what's this animal doing here? Get it out of here! And she like the papers like fly up in the air, and you manage to grab some and like stuff him in your bag or whatever, because you have a big bag, because normally you keep Winston in it, right?
And my many cardigans, I just like open up my jacket and just whoosh all in.
Exactly. It all disappears inside the kind of general, fabric zone that is Rosemary. And when she looks back, like she clearly thinks that like, oh, she dropped the papers, but oh, they went overboard. So it's fine. But she's very upset with you for like having your cat on her yacht, obviously. I mean, like,
what's the difference? You have your kids on your yacht. Why can't I have my kids on your yacht?
A cat is not a child, and everyone knows that, that one's allergic, and then, they carry toxoplasmosis or whatever it is.
My dear husband Ferguson died of testicular cancer disease, and he was a veteran, and I didn't see your charity do shit for him.
Ooh. Well, I never. So now, I mean, typically, a clue would only result from a meddling move, but I feel like this is relevant here. So what I'm going to give you is So some of the papers did go overboard, but you managed to recover part of them. And a lot of them seem like charity documents of various kinds. You're not quite sure what the significance is there, but one of them is a letter. And you're missing the first page. So you don't know who it's to, but it is a love letter. And it's very, it's very romantic, very heartfelt. I miss you. I wish we could be together. Soon, the time is coming when, I'll actually be able to see you and we won't have to live in secret anymore. And it's just signed A.
Anders?
Albert?
Well, yeah, unfortunately,
Albert,
Amanda.
Ah, damn it.
So it's just signed A. But I'm going to take off the clue. A love letter.
Could be Andrew's the butler.
Mm.
Lots of A's. Now, I have a question about this game in general. Is there already a predetermined murder here, or
No.
we're doing this as we go? We're
Doing this as we
determining how
go.
it's
So
gonna work.
here's how it works. At the end of the mystery, so just in case people watching don't know, at the end of the mystery, you're going to do a move called theorize. Now, these clues that you're amassing, for every one of those that you incorporate into your theory about what happened, you get a +1 to your roll. And then you're going to subtract the mystery's complexity level, which is 5. So you currently have 4 clues, which means with your next clue, you'll be on evens for a theorized roll.
Right.
Meaning you're more likely to succeed than fail, because evens puts you at a 7. That determines whether your theory is correct. So if you succeed on the roll, then your theory is right. If you miss, then you're wrong, and you have to go back to the drawing board and find another suspect. If you get a 7 to 9, then you're right about who the culprit is, but that doesn't mean you catch them. Like, a complication could come up. So maybe you'd be like, oh, it was, Old Man Withers, but then Old Man Withers, takes a hostage or something like that, right? So then there would be something else that you have to deal with. And on a 10+, you both identify the culprit and bring them to justice. However, you can't use a crown. You can't gain advantage. You can't do gold crown mysteries. There's nothing you can do to affect the math of a theorized roll other than find clues. So yes, this is an entirely improvised. I have a list of clues, but they're more than we would actually ever use. There's 20 of them, I think. And I'm tailoring them specifically. So some of them are, one of the clues is an antique vase shattered. Yeah. So I then put that into a particular context of where it was and whatever. Okay. So yes, it is the weirdest thing about this game. And one of my favorite things about it is that everyone plays it as though they are trying to find out the culprit, even though they know that they're making it up. And yet this doesn't seem, no one ever goes let's just screw around with it. As far as I can tell, everyone just plays it completely straight nonetheless. I don't know why, but it's very interesting. Anyway. Okay. So Amanda's furious at you, Rosemary, but you have managed to grab this clue. Meanwhile, what are Susan and Ronnie up to? Let's Rafe, tell me what Ronnie is doing aboard the Regal Lady.
So I think Ronnie, having spotted someone observing the group earlier, wonders if anyone is looking at them now. So I'm guessing on a yacht like this, there are going to be binoculars around from where people are spotting.
Like a spyglass, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So she's going to grab a pair of binoculars and head up to the highest point on the boat and check to see if there are any other boats nearby, any signs of anyone watching, or maybe from her high point she will catch sight of something on the boat that might pique her interest.
Okay. Well, there are definitely a lot of boats in the harbor, right? I mean, there's boats all over the place. Even at nighttime, you can see the running lights of these other boats. Not too many out this far, but there are some. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So I think this is probably a meddling move. Spotting things is, I would guess that's probably reason. So go ahead and give me a meddling reason. So just roll 2d6 and add your reason, which I think is 1.
That's a total of 10.
Okay, a full success. Nice. So yeah, no problem at all. Your suspicion turns out to be correct. You see that there is like, again, it's just a dark shape, right? There's just a guy on a boat. But he is he's there on his boat watching the watching the regal lady, also out of some binoculars. Even in this distance you can see that he looks kind of like he's a little he just seems out of place. Like you recognize there's the logo of like a rental company on the side of the boat. And he's watching the thing, and he actually sees you watching him and starts to like bring the boat over toward the regal lady.
Oh, he's coming towards us.
And he as he pulls close, he looks up at you. He's got like a watch cap on. He looks up at you and he goes, "Hey there. I mean, ahoy."
Ooh. Ahoy to you too.
You's with the Krauses?
Well, we're not with them. We're physically with them, but no, this is the first time we've met them.
So is that a yes or a no?
Well, depends if you're talking in a physical or metaphysical sense. I suppose no.
A likely story. What you was doing on a yacht then?
We're investigating.
I see.
We're trying to find out what happened to that poor man who they dragged out of the water.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And have you found anything out?
It's a work in progress, young man.
And did you find certain monies?
Monies, you say?
Yeah, that might be owed to certain people.
And who might these
Let's
people
call
be?
them investors.
I see. How much monies are we talking about this investment being?
Oh, I would call it a substantial amount. Yeah. You tell Mrs. Krause it's a terrible shame about what happened to her husband. But the monies remain outstanding.
Oh, I shall be sure to pass on your message, young man.
Okay, I mean, aye. He goes back to the motor because he's in like a little boat with a motor at the back, right? Like he's kind of standing there talking up to you over the rail of the regal lady. He turns it around and puts ridiculously back to Brindlewood Bay. Okay, and so I'm going to add the clue: an attempt to collect a debt. To the list. Okay. So then How about you, Susan? What have you been up to?
Susan wants to talk to Amanda about this charity, the Warriors Ball.
Yeah.
And about the stresses of charity events. She's done charity events in the past before.
Okay.
An old friend of her, Howard Hessman, he was doing a charity gala for out of work clothes inspectors, which is a lot. It's something that you think that people aren't in need of. That's not a group of people that need assistance, but you'd be surprised how many people are out of work in that area. And, we had a lot of problems with that as well, getting funding and where the money was. And, I'm trying to ingratiate myself with her that maybe she'll spill some information about what's going on with this charity.
All right, fantastic. So yes, and you're taking the soft approach, like as opposed to
yes.
So she comes in super flustered from having been ambushed by a cat, and you kind of get her to talk about, and it does seem like when you get her to talk about the Warriors Ball, it actually does seem to be like it's the first time you see her really like she's actually really animated talking about it, right? Like this does seem to be something she cares about much more than she cares about some of these other things she's been talking about. So
including her husband.
Very much so. Yeah. So this is a meddling move with presence as the attribute.
Oh my gosh.
I see Erin's got a prop for Winston. Go ahead and give me a meddling move with presence. I
rolled another 7 with my presence. The +2 is a 9, which again doesn't make much of a difference.
Yeah, so that's another partial success. It's going to put another condition, or it's going to limit the information in some way. Okay, so I think that. So I think that the complication, okay. So you kind of befriend her, and so she starts talking to you about how like it's important that people from sort of good families, like people to whom like so much has been given, they need to give back to the community. One of the biggest problems with like society today is that those people have kind of like abdicated their responsibilities, and they need to show more leadership. For the community, and like it's so good to meet someone who really understands that and who sees things from the right perspective. So I'm going to add a condition called people like us, which that Amanda thinks that you're people like us now, which it can be good, but also has some downsides. And so she tells you a lot about the Warriors Ball, and in fact, she sort of gets into the because she's so passionate about it, she actually kind of gets carried away a little bit, and maybe like reveals more than she should about it. And so I'm going to give you the clue. Piles of receipts for extravagant purchases. So she's like, you've participated in these charity galas before. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. So you know a little something about how they're organized, and you are shocked by the amount of money that she is spending. It's astonishing. Piles of receipts for extravagant purchases. Okay. And so but she doesn't seem to think that like she's just like sharing with you the details, there's going to be, sure. And the band's going to play. And then that's when the alpacas will come out. And then and then like, obviously you'll be finished with breakfast in Paris, and whatever, right? Like it's very it's just super over the top, but she doesn't seem to see it that way. And then, if you mention this at all, she's just like, well, but what what price is too high to pay to help those who have
Of course.
nobly sacrificed for their country.
Exactly. Makes perfect sense to me.
Fantastic. Okay, so I think that's yes, you've had a chance to search the Regal Lady and talk to her crew or her passengers. I think it's getting pretty late. So I think we might just make a transition to the next day as you go about your daily lives and begin to sort of plan your next moves. Right? Because, you're typically not real stay-up-laters in the main, being old ladies. But I do think that with Laura's information about the time of death, you are able to persuade Sheriff Dalrymple that there's a need to order the Regal Lady not to leave port. Can he do that? I don't know, but the law is not really a concern in TV mysteries, and we're going to follow that example.
Sure.
So I think just judging by the clock on the wall, I feel like we have kind of like one more round of moves, and then we're going to go to theorize. That seems to me like the kind of about how long this episode is.
Yeah,
so
makes sense.
I'd like people to think about kind of like what is the remaining thing that they would like to do, and we'll take in the order of whoever kind of whoever sort of comes up with their idea first. So what pieces of information would you need to clarify or in reality build your theory of the crime?
We could talk to the boat rental place and see who it was that was it Rosemary spoke to? No, Ronnie spoke to. Who was on that boat and talking about a debt. See if we can figure out who it was who hired the boat.
Yeah.
And David said that he was in the room where the broken vase happened, so we could talk to him about or press him further about what happened there.
Right. He's the only one that you've caught in a definite inconsistency. Okay. So boat rental place, brace David. What are some other ones?
We could ask if the Regal Lady has any kind of security footage. I don't know who we'd ask, but the
do we
police
know of
probably
that?
have asked.
Do we know that sort of technology exists?
We probably know it exists.
You know for sure that the Regal Lady doesn't, but you might be able to, for instance, find there's lots of people, judging by when you think he probably went into the water or what happened, it would have been a time when there were a lot of other boats in the harbor, and those these tourist boats are full of people with cameras, so maybe you might find someone who who had some footage there or something like that. Okay, any more?
For the receipts, do they say any stores that are in town, perhaps, that we can go check out?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, absolutely. So follow up on the receipts.
Yeah, for the extravagant purchases.
Yes.
Now, in this game, are we already trying to formulate something, and that these clues are going to reinforce what we're formulating?
Well, I mean, that's kind of up to you in terms of how you want to play it, but that I think is so you could. The difference between, I think there's a discrepancy in the case here, and I want to know more. And I am beginning to plan out my answer to the case, and I want to see if I can find things that would reinforce or complement that.
Yeah,
is not that great, if you see what I mean, right? The practical effect would be the same. So yeah, just play it as doing what your character would do, and you will wind up with the bits that you need to create your theory of the crime, I think.
All right.
So does that mean that you have a thing you want to do?
I would like to somehow I'd like to talk to David maybe about his father being involved in financial.
Okay. So that can go within the David thing. Brace David, yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and maybe, if we wind up having time, we might do another one just based on whatever comes up from these. But let's start with visiting the boat rental place. So who said they wanted to visit boat rental? Was that, okay. So let's start with Laura. So it's a bright early morning, you're, how do you think, Laura gets around town? Danielle, what's your, are you a walker, a bicycler?
I've got a little electric scooter.
Oh, of course, yes.
Yep.
So you electric scoot your way into Brindlewood Bay, and even this early in the morning, the waterfront is already very busy. So as you scoot through the historic, waterfront area where all the art galleries are, what do you see that reminds you, or like in what ways are the tourists making it difficult for you to conduct your investigation?
Even this early in the morning, the tourists are actually starting to queue up outside all of the attractions. Mm-hmm. So the art galleries open early. Every art gallery is crowded. It's nice weather. It's the middle of summer, not unexpected. The cafes are all crowded, but so is the boat rental place. Mm-hmm. There are people waiting to take boats out, and there's only one guy behind the counter. He's super busy right now because there are just so many people.
So you pass by like the many sites of Brindlewood Bay, the Whaling Museum, the Doll Museum, all the places that sell driftwood, whimsically carved and decorated driftwood, things with seashells attached to them, there's one place that's called watercolor painting of lighthouses city, nothing but watercolor paintings of lighthouses. And you pull up to the boat rental place where one harried teenager is, because it's summer, right? They're all out there like summer jobs. One harried teenager is trying to satisfy the demands of all these people from Boston. Or even further afield. And so actually when you try to get information out of them, they're surprisingly cool about it, because this is actually just it's a pleasant change from dealing with a bunch of sweaty tourists. Okay, so you asking them about the person who rented the boat. What do you ask?
There was a gentleman, I presume Patricia gave me a description of him, other than his hat. Patricia, did you remember what he looked like?
Oh, sorry, it was Ronnie, I think.
Oh, sorry, Ronnie.
Yes, it was Ronnie. Yeah,
absolutely. So his accent sounded like an old movie hitman for the mob. Yeah, describes his look. Weird tattoo, a little tattoo of an anchor on his arm.
Yeah. The phrase "guys and dolls" probably comes up.
Who had a boat rented out last night. I was just wondering who he might have been, because we had a conversation with him, but didn't catch his name.
Oh, yeah. Well, he signed the register here. It says John Smith, which in my opinion is an alias.
That does sound like an alias, doesn't it? Has he been in before?
No, well, once before, yeah. Twice, yeah. So he's come in every day for the past 3 days. Huh. It was a little awkward because he didn't want to leave his credit card. You gotta leave a credit card for the liability.
He wanted to just pay cash?
Yeah.
That's super weird.
Yeah, he had a big wad of cash. Yeah. Huh. And he told me I better take it if I knew what was good for me. It was kind of suspicious now that I think about it.
Yeah. You should maybe tell the sheriff about him. That definitely sounds shady.
Not that guy.
Oh, Wyman's a pussycat. Don't worry about him.
Is that right? It doesn't sound right.
Trust me, one of my best friends walks around with a pussycat, and it is much more dangerous than the sheriff.
Yeah, well, okay. He did, yeah, he did, yeah, but well, yeah, I mean, that's it, but he should be back today. I mean, if today's like, he was here the previous day, so.
Does he come back around the same time every day? Maybe I'll come and see if he's here.
Yeah, okay. I mean, sure. Did you want a boat though, or?
No, I just want to talk to this guy.
Okay.
So he comes. What sort of time?
So he tells you he'll probably. I mean, he turned up around midday the previous days.
Okay.
So cut to, you're like sitting at one of the cafe like tables, like a newspaper, keeping an eye on the boat rental place. And sure enough, the guy that Ronnie described shows up. He hands the squeaky voiced teen like a big wad of 20s. And yeah, he's he I mean, he kind of looks like a movie gangster, except instead of a fedora, he's wearing a watch cap. And yeah, he goes down to where the boat is. He grudgingly puts on his life jacket. He obviously doesn't want to. And the squeaky voiced teen tells him he cannot go out in the boat unless he puts on his life jacket. What are you doing?
I might see if I can intercept him before he heads out. And
yeah, sure thing. So you
chat.
You're gonna go down and talk to him.
Yep.
And he's like, "What do you want?"
Oh, just believe he spoke to a friend of mine yesterday, and
a lot of old ladies asking questions about this.
Yeah, we're
You're
very
the
curious. Oh, who was this? Who was the second?
The lady I spoke to the other night, your friend.
Oh, then who was the first?
Well, I don't know. An old lady. I don't know who none of yous are.
I was just curious, it's what old ladies do. We're retired.
That makes sense. And oath tones. What do you want?
I'm just wondering what you're doing, because you seem to be keeping an eye on the Krauses, which makes sense if they owe you money.
Yeah, well, they owe certain monies to certain persons.
And you think they're gonna just leave without paying?
That would be characteristic in our experience.
So they've done it before?
You could say that.
And
These are not the kind of persons to whomst one would default upon a debt.
I was getting that impression. I don't suppose you were out night before last and saw one of them fall off the boat?
I ain't seen nothing.
Oh, it's a shame, because, they would be much harder pressed to pay back that debt if they weren't being accused of drowning someone.
Nah, I don't know nothing. What's drowning?
It's when you fall in the water and you get water in your lungs and can't breathe anymore.
Are you in the police?
No.
All right, that's all right then.
I'm just, like I said, I'm retired.
He's mulling this over whether this counts. So this feels like a meddling move with presence. So go ahead and give me that presence.
Okay, I'm pretty sure presence I have 0.
Fantastic. Do it and be a hero.
Let's see. Ooh, that is a 4.
Ooh, that's a big miss. Okay.
Yeah.
So now, again, you have two options. So when you meddle, it just means you do not find a clue, but also like a clue is not to be found, right? Alternatively, you could put on a crown and bump it up to a clue, but a complication. So either you're just not going to break through this guy's reserve, I ain't saying none. Or alternatively, you could get something out of him, maybe even inadvertently, but there's going to be consequences.
I'll try a crown.
All right, fantastic.
Crown of the Queen.
So you can pick one of the 4 flashbacks, which are basically of your late partner, your other family, your children, or you can do a present day scene in which we get to see sort of more private sides of the character outside the mystery solving world.
Let's go with the flashback.
Okay.
And so having this conversation, this argument at this point almost with this guy reminds me of having similar arguments. Now, I don't actually have a sister, but I have a cousin who I grew up with. We were super close when we were kids, and most of the time we got on really well. But as we grew older, we grew apart a bit. And this argument just reminds me of the last real conversation that I had with this cousin of mine. Her name was also Emily. In fact, I mean, she's the one that I named my daughter after. And we had an argument. It was about something stupid. I don't even remember how it started. And we started talking about money, and that's never a good idea with family. We started talking about money, and I said something about her choices, about like the job she had just taken. And, you know, looking back on it, that was on me. That was a bad call. I should have been more. I should have listened more. I should have been a kinder person, and I should have taken into account that she probably had things going on that she didn't tell me about. Yeah.
All right. So this reminds you. So you've ticked off that you were an imperfect sister or daughter. You're sending sister here to a kind of sisterly relationship.
Yeah.
And so you just kind of like listen and let this guy talk. So and he goes, and he says, well, all right, but you didn't hear it from me. I was, let's say I was maybe, or somebody was in the general vicinity at a boat and the vessel. And I did see somebody else leaving on another boat. I didn't get a too good, or whoever was getting a look at him didn't get too good of a look at him. But it was a young guy. He was kind of athletic looking, and he had like a real short haircut. Like it's like real short on the sides. And you know, and he was but it was the way he was acting. He was acting all furtive. Like he didn't want nobody to see him. And it just struck me as odd. But like he wasn't like fleeing, but it just you know, seemed a little hinky at the time. And just because of the way the clues work, although he doesn't mention it, I'm going to use the clue's name, which is going to give you 7, a taboo love affair. It's suggesting that this is in fact a lover rather than a killer. sneaking away from the yacht. We'll get to the consequence. I'll have to have a little think about this one because you still only bumped it up to a partial success.
Yep.
Okay, fantastic. So that's taking a look at the boat rental. Let's jump from here to following up on the receipts. So that was you, right, Damien? You were
that's right.
to go look at what they were spending some of this money on.
Yeah.
So I figured this is a combination of because obviously while Amanda has been here, she has still been buying stuff for the gala, right? It's in Boston, but she never stops. A, B, BS, F, T, C, G, right? Always be buying stuff for the charity gala.
Yeah.
So that's her motto. So you chase some of this stuff up, and I think you so what's your method here? Are you just getting public information and trying to put all the pieces together? Are you trying to charm people? What's the move?
Trying to see in what name or perhaps what company she's purchasing these items. Okay. So she's got the receipts, so maybe some kind of dodgy shell company or something she's charging it to, let's say.
Okay. So that sounds like you're doing some kind of financial sleuthing. That's probably a meddling move with a reason. So why don't you go and make that roll for me?
Cool. That is a 7.
Okay, so that's a partial success. Okay, so all right. So you are. So you basically you talk to all these people in the shops. It looks like she's spending money based on the she has a credit card for the charity account that she's using. She's not spending her own money. That all seems above board, apart from the fact that she's spending a colossal amount of money, but apparently she does have it. However, in the last shop, the assistant is like, "Oh, so are you a friend of the Krause family?"
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Oh, well, and she reaches behind the counter and pulls out a piece of paper. She goes, "Could you give this back to them? Because Mrs. Krause dropped it when she was in here."
Oh, of course, I'd be delighted to.
And so it is a guest list for the Warriors Ball. And you can see that one name. So there's various dignitaries and civic officials and blah 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 and some celebrities, and then there's a bunch of these veterans with testicular cancer, and you can see that one of the names has been angrily crossed out. So just super scribbled out. So that's going to give us clue number 8. Guest list with one name crossed out. However, as you are doing this, so you're looking at this you're coming out of the shop and you bump into Andrews. You literally just walk right into him, and he snatches the document out of your hand and he goes, "I will take that."
Andrews, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Could you tell me more about that guest list there?
No. And he puts it in his jacket and goes inside. And as he turns around, he goes,
Is the name that's crossed out?
How rude!
So I'm gonna give you the condition. Andrews is on to you.
Not Andrews.
Was the name that was crossed out something that began with an A?
Yeah, yes, could I tell?
Yes. So yeah. So the name that is crossed out is Technical Sergeant Alex Lynn.
Ooh, okay.
Okay. So receipts. So the next two are Bracing David. So who wanted to go hassle? Who wanted to go give David a hard time?
I wanted to hassle Dave. Well, not
Okay.
hassle. I want to seduce him.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
Yes.
butter him up.
No, seduce him. No, seduce him.
Okay. So and you wanted to do David as well, Rosemary.
I don't want to do him, but I wanted to talk to him about the
You wanted to do Andrews.
yeah.
So are the two of you okay with talking to David together?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Where do you set up to meet?
Oh,
Maybe-
the
Set the scene
one of
for
the-
me as you talk to him.
There's a nice cafe that is by the bay, by the docks,
Mm.
where the ship would be.
They have great scones.
All right, fantastic. So you meet David at this cafe. He looks just as kind of like impatient to be somewhere else as before. What are you asking him about?
About his father and about whether his father was having any financial difficulties, but also if these financial difficulties might tie into any extramarital affairs.
Mm.
Okay. So again, that probably sounds like so I'll give you the gist, which is, so first he says, no, is it like so financial difficulties? No, absolutely not. His father was very successful. He started Kraus Limited from nothing. And like ever since then, he's gone from success to success. It was only like, he just says like, oh yeah, he came out of nowhere to become to take the financial world by storm. And he had been successful ever since. And certainly not like, was his father having an affair? Absolutely not. Like, he was devoted. He says he was devoted to my mother. She also liked him. Okay.
Mm. So is it possible that she might have had an affair?
I mean, that's an awkward question to ask someone about their mother. But listen. And he goes into his phone and he shows you like a photo of the whole family. And he goes, now, I don't care about these things, but my mother, when she was young, was a very beautiful woman. And my father was a very wealthy man. And families are complicated, but if you told me that, my mother cared more about the lifestyle, that the life in general that my father could offer her, more so than him personally, I would accept that as a valid interpretation of their relationship.
Uh-huh.
What are you implying?
All right. Well, looking into this case, a few strange things have come up that's made me pause. It seems that your father owes some men some money.
I'm sure father owed lots of people money. I mean, the complex world of finance.
But people that are of less reputable standing?
And he actually, like, he kind of freezes up a little bit with, wait, and he leans it forward. What kind of hats do they wear?
They're the little round, the little round hats. Well, they seemed very interested, and they said it's too bad that he died, but the money's still owed by the family, and that they will be taking on the debt.
Oh my God.
Also, we found this love letter. Do you happen to recognize the handwriting?
He looks at it and he goes, no, I've never seen this before in my life.
I see.
But don't just jump from my dad was being pursued by the codfish mafia to some love letter. You can't just. They're the most feared criminal organization in New England, from Bangor all the way to distant Newport. They run a network of crime.
Well,
I kind of respect my father more now, honestly.
So you have no idea what he was doing with these people, why he would be involved? I
didn't concern myself with my father's business affairs.
No. But your business affairs, what are those exactly?
I run an art gallery.
Uh-huh.
Very prestigious.
An art gallery. Any art galleries that happen to have any ceramics of any kind?
We do exhibit ceramic work, yeah, sure, obviously.
Interesting. What do you think about this, Rosemary?
Oh, well, obviously an art gallerist who cares so much about artwork would surely be devastated to know that one of your porcelain was dastardly smashed on the boat. Ah, it hurts me just thinking about it.
All right. So it sounds like you are trying to
not have a heart attack.
All right. So yeah, it sounds like you're trying to meddle. And again, you're sort of you're kind of intimidating him. So I guess that's probably presence.
Ah, shit. Higher on my presence.
Well, I mean, either one of you can roll. I know, Chris, you've got good presence, but
I do.
Indeed or alternatively for double. So either you can roll, or for double teaming, I'll let Rosemary roll, but with advantage. Whichever one you guys prefer.
Yeah, do that.
Oh, okay.
And we'll just, sit here on the sidelines and watch you double team David.
Oh my.
Ooh,
Once again, I wish Andrews was on to me. That'd be a lot more fun. That's a 9.
Okay, so that's a partial success. All right, fine.
Yeah.
So he jumps up and bolts. Like when you bring up the thing about the vase, he literally he scrambles up out of his chair and he runs. But as he does so,
Winston, grab him!
so you and your cat chasing after him. He drops. In the confusion, he drops his. He has like a merce, it's not quite big enough to be a. Yeah. It's not quite small enough to be a purse. It's not quite big enough to be a messenger bag. And he drops it, and it poofs open. And he looks back in horror at the fact that he's dropped it. But then as he sees you pursuing him, he continues to run. Now, I don't think that either of you, David's 28.
Yeah.
So you're not going to outrun him.
No.
But you do get a chance to look inside this bag, which contains which contains the fragments of this. It contains this cracked vase that matches the porcelain fragments that you found in the cabin, let's call it. But you can see peeking out through the crack some papers.
I'm on a roll with papers today. All right, let's go. Put on my glasses.
Okay.
Put on magnifiers on my glasses.
They're stock certificates.
Oh.
And you are not financial experts, but you think they are worth a lot of money. There's quite a lot of them here.
We're rich. Let's live in luxury and leave the life of crime behind.
Is that?
Well, they're not ours, Rosemary. We can't do that.
You're not fully grasping this life or crime concept, I feel.
Not yet, they're not. One down,
okay.
3 to go.
Stock certificates in an unlikely hiding place is clue number 9. And finally, who wanted to go chasing after the cameras? Who hasn't gone somewhere? Is that
Ronnie?
Ronnie?
Ronnie.
Ronnie's not gone anywhere.
All right. So by default, I think that means you're on camera patrol. As you so you're gonna have to kind of like go around, talk to the people on the boats at the thing, at the marina.
I shove my little basket, with the cloth over it, full of baked goods for bribery.
All right, fantastic.
Nice.
Excellent plan.
Well done.
So as you're doing so, though, you see, so you're you probably have to get on a boat and go out into the harbor as well. So you're puttering around on the boat, and you see so you go to a bunch of different places. You're trying to this is probably just a meddling move. Yeah, this is a meddling move with reason, I think. Simply enough, right? You're just collecting data. Go ahead and give me a roll. Your reason is 1, I think.
Yep. So that's 2 dice, and the dice come up as 5. So that's 6 in total.
Okay, so that is going to be a failure unless you want to put on a crown.
Yes, I think we'll put on a crown now. Which one of those is going to be relevant to trying to persuade people or chase down footage? So I think I'm about to. I've been around loads of these boats. I'm about to give up, and then I flash back to memories with Marv Jr., my son, and trying to teach him how to do a stunt on his bike, to do a wheelie. And he kept falling off, and he was going to give up. But I told him, give it one more try. And on the last try, he managed to pull a wheelie off for a few seconds and put the wheel back down without falling off.
Did he do a really good job?
Yeah. Oh, yes, a really good job. And that's my fondest memory of him. And makes it even harder that he then became an accountant rather than a stuntman.
All right, yeah, tragic. So
tragedy.
All right, so you've ticked off your fondest memory crown, so that's going to put you up to a partial success. So you do eventually find someone who, they're actually been taking a video of the Brindlewood Lighthouse, but you can see the deck of the Regal Lady in this video, and it looks like hang about now, an argument between 2 suspects. Okay, Albert's not a suspect. So you can see what looks like Emily and Amanda arguing on the deck of the Regal Lady, but they're too far away. You can't hear what they're saying, but you can absolutely see them, they're getting up in each other's faces, they're gesturing and shouting, but you can't tell who is who's saying what. So that's going to give you. I thought we had clue number 9.
Yeah, I've got that's clue 10, I think.
Yeah, 9 is stock certificates. Yeah. Okay. Stock certificate. I must have accidentally deleted it. In an unlikely hiding place. And clue 10, an argument between Emily and Amanda. All right. So, however, as you are returning, you see another, you see a rental boat approaching you, and it's not it's it should be, like you try to move out of the way and it follows you. You try to move out of the way and it follows you, and you realize it's actually coming right at you. And looking, and you see standing on the deck, a person who is wearing, like a diving mask, right? So you can't see their face because they've got like a respirator and goggles or whatever they're called on. And they rocket their boat towards you, and then at the last moment they dive overboard. So this boat is coming right at you. What are you doing?
Ooh, okay. What am I doing? I think as it's coming straight towards me, I think I will take the opportunity to use my Colt Seaver's move to pull off a wild or daring physical feat, and there's a buoy, that's sitting just to the side. So what I do is I take the boat for the buoy, hit it as the wind is putting it off to the side, and sort of use it, do a sort of a ramping boost, so my boat goes flying over the other boat. And if you blinked, you might for a minute think that Ronnie has been replaced by a 6-foot tall dude with stubble wearing her clothes as the boat jumps over and the stunt is pulled off. And then when it lands, it cuts back and it's back to Ronnie again.
All right, fantastic,
brilliant.
Your Colt Seaver's ability. So because we're playing a one shot, Brindlewood Bay purists may have noticed that I skipped the way the experience system works. So I apologize for that one. It just occurred to me as I was looking at the character sheets, but we can talk about it if we need to, which we won't. Okay, fantastic. So, but of course, by the time you have done all this, and the errant boat has been like tracked down and secured, there's no sign of the scuba masked diver. All right. So later at the Candlelight Bookshop, you have clues, you have suspects. Now, you need not confine your theory of the case to things that are like numbered clues on the list, right? You can incorporate any theory or idea that you have. It's just not worth any points, right? So it doesn't change your score on the final roll, but it is, but like you don't have to limit yourself, but these are just things that you might want to include. It is also a part of the game is, as keeper, I will participate in this conversation, even though there's no one there to be having it. So this is the theorized move is a conversation between the players, which the characters can then present as like, so there's no, like the characters aren't going to discard all these ideas, right? It's just later on you'll be like, well, we realized that. So the characters think the finished product. But we're kind of like, we're going into the writer's room for a moment, if you like.
Right.
So theory of the case.
So we don't have to incorporate all the clues.
No, but every clue that you incorporate adds one to your roll.
I think
Right.
two things that pair up together really well is one, they've got money problems, and two, the wife is spending a lot of money. To me, it sort of made more sense that the wife is the reason they're in debt, and he like cut her off from the charity or something.
I mean,
Yeah.
the photograph of the codfish and the rat has to imply the codfish mafia, which is the people with the unpaid debt and all the financial records.
Oh, I like your thinking.
And like a rat normally means that somebody's telling stories or leaking information. And the fact the codfish has got a rat in its mouth, it's like the rat is going to be damaged. So maybe Albert was the rat and he was telling somebody about this financial stuff, and the mafia found out about it because Amanda is having an affair with somebody whose name starts with an, well, it could be Amanda who is writing the letter. Amanda's having an affair with somebody, and that somebody is actually part of the mafia or associated with them.
What if Technical Sergeant Alex Ling was the person she was having the affair with, and the reason he scratched off and left that night was she found out that he was connected to the mafia.
Or maybe he even tried to collect some of the money for the mafia by taking that vase, and it was shattered in some kind of confrontation. And
David saw him leaving, and maybe in anger of his mum having an affair, threw the vase at Alex.
I don't know if he would throw the vase, but he may have known that Sergeant Alex Lynn, or whoever it was going to take it. He might have tried to stop them.
Mm.
And we've got like Emily and Amanda having an argument. Maybe Emily found out that Amanda was spending all this money. I feel like we've almost got all the pieces.
Or having an affair, but we still don't have the reason why he died. Like, who actually killed him?
How about they were arguing because Amanda had found out about this affair, hacked into Technical Sergeant's records, and found out that he's actually Albert's son, eldest son that she's having the affair with. And the other son overheard and realised that makes him the heir to all the money. So decided to try and get out with the stocks. Got in a fight with his father, clocked him on the head with a vase, and was forced to then dispose of the body.
Nice. So we're saying that David's the killer.
David's the one who's been acting the most suspicious.
Yeah, but I really don't like Amanda.
Yeah, but I don't think she killed anyone. I don't think she cared enough.
That's true.
I think she was probably the reason that he was killed.
Yeah.
But I don't think she did it.
So what's the full what's that full story? It's hard to
So David, wait, so who is the family's in debt?
Yeah.
And
but only Albert knew that.
Yeah. So only Albert knew that.
Because everybody else is still spending money like there's no tomorrow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and then David found out. Somebody found out.
David found out about it.
And Emily found out about it as well, maybe, because of the argument.
Yeah,
Could
maybe
be.
it was Emily found out about it and went and had a fight with her mother, who's still spending money like there's no tomorrow.
That David went to Emily to tell her things are bad in the family, and then Emily went to go talk to her mother, and her mother and her had an argument about it. The stock certificates and the vase being used to pay off the mafia. Is that right? Is that what we're going with here?
I think
that he didn't actually pass out drunk off the edge of the boat because he died later than what? Because we've got that thing too.
He died
must have gone
earlier.
off.
He died. He
died earlier.
He had been dead longer than people said, right? So at the time that he went into the water, he was already dead.
Okay. So in a matter of minutes, not.
No, you think he'd been dead for some time? Yeah.
Well, because they said everybody saw him at dinner, and then they didn't see him in the evening.
But it was the following evening that he was found.
Yeah, it was
the whole day.
He was found. Yeah. But they assume yes, that's true. But there's still a several hour window, right? Like they didn't see him after, I don't know, 7 or 8, and then he turned up missing around 10 or 11.
So let's go through the timeline here. I mean, historically, there's money owed. Albert knows that there's money owed. Amanda's still spending money. Sarah has been dragged into this and seems to have little to nothing to do with it. Emily and David seem to think that there's no issue with the money. So they don't know that there's a debt. but somebody is talking about the mafia. I mean, otherwise, the rat and the fish, that makes no sense. So
The rat and the fish could be a red herring.
Could be a red herring. But it looked like a codfish.
Sorry, I apologize.
This is a con with the rat stuffed in its mouth. Yeah.
Well, that could have been the codfish mafia's equivalent of horse's head in a bed. That was their message to tell him to pay up. Otherwise,
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, that does make sense.
Oh, I like that. Yes. That's their known sign around these parts that you're in trouble. Yes, I like
Do we
this.
need to tie in the tattoo at all?
You do not.
No, because it wasn't a clue.
Yes. I mean, you don't have to tie in all the clues. It's just you can. The more you do, the better it is for you.
Mm.
So the whole family has dinner together, and we're reasonably confident that Albert was alive at dinner, and he died very shortly after dinner, which means that Andrews was the last person to see him alive, or Andrews is the one who killed him.
No,
Andrews said he saw him after dinner.
Andrews took back the guest list that I had rather forcefully, with the name crossed out. So he's hiding something.
So maybe he knew about the financial difficulties of the family, and he was helping Albert cover it up.
That would make sense. Yes.
Yeah.
So let's just go through the ones that you're happy with, like you feel like you know their role, right? So we're comfortable with that. Cod with a rat stuff in its mouth is a warning from the codfish mafia.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're comfortable that a misreported detail about the time of death is he was killed very quickly after dinner, and the story about how nobody saw him all night is some kind of cover up.
Yep.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We're happy that the attempt to collect a debt again is that he owed money to the codfish mafia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're happy that piles of receipts for extravagant purchases is Amanda, unaware of the family's financial difficulties, just kept spending money.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
Yep.
We're happy. Well, now, so I think those are the ones that we're dead certain about, right?
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who do you reckon was the intended recipient of the love letter?
Mm.
Because remember, Amanda had the love letter.
So it should have been her love, unless she found out about an affair that somebody else was having. But she doesn't seem to care about an affair.
Yeah.
From what we've gathered about it. So let's just say I would guess that it was actually addressed to her from somebody else. And maybe we'll go with this guy.
Alex Lynn.
Alex Lynn, yes.
Okay.
His
And-
name has been crossed off the guest list. So maybe
Yes.
that love letter wasn't welcome.
Well, he did leave that night, like he was on the boat the same
The
night.
name's been crossed off the guest list because they had a fight that night. He was the one who visited.
Yeah.
So okay,
That's
so
the guest
we've got,
list for the ball, right? Not the guest
for the
list
Warriors
on the
ball.
boat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't say this, but the shop clerk tells you that Mrs. Krause dropped the guest list. She was in the day before, so that is she was in the day that the body was found, right? So the name was crossed off the guest list, potentially after the murder, but also possibly before it, but not necessarily before it.
Okay.
So we're happy with the idea that Amanda is having an affair with Alex.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Why he was visiting the boat.
Yeah.
That the letter is from him to her.
Yeah.
And that she
Yeah.
tried to get rid of it because she thought it would be incriminating, right? She was having an affair. That might suggest that she killed her husband.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whether she did it or that's why she did it or not, she might think that it would make her look bad.
Yeah.
Okay. So So and we're assuming that Alex Lynn is the man of the boat because he has a short haircut, which would tie in with being in the military.
Yeah.
Okay. So it seems that we've got stock certificates and a shattered vase. We know that the vase was in the room that David claimed to be in at the time of the killing.
Yep.
What was that?
How do we think?
There was someone that had that theory that Alex is actually like the long lost kid and is meant to be the first one to inherit the money, which is why he's been crossed off the guest list.
I don't know about that, but how about this? Emily was confronting Amanda on the deck. Now, both of them were very clear that they didn't see Albert. They don't know what happened. But what if that's because they were distracted because they were fighting with each other? And at the same time, Albert and David were having a confrontation of their own in the lounge. Now, David said he was alone in the lounge. But what if he wasn't? What if Albert went to the lounge after dinner and during that confrontation, that vase shattered?
David's art gallery isn't making any money. And so David's asking for a bigger allowance and Albert won't have it because he can't. He's in debt. So David takes stock to start putting the stock certificates.
What if it really was an accident?
I think
because Albert was drunk. We know he'd been drinking all night. What if he didn't fall over the rail? He fell into the vase. And
that sounds great.
He died because he hit his head, shattering this priceless vase. And David panicked and tipped him over the railing. Which is why he feels so guilty.
So why
maybe even
Alex...
with Andrew's help?
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, we could definitely implicate some of these characters in a cover-up.
Yeah.
So particularly the tirelessly loyal Andrews.
Yes.
Okay. So why is Alex Lynn crossed off the guest list? I have a thing that might fit.
Arguing because they were both seeing him.
Oh,
yes.
All right, fantastic. That would also explain why he was sent away when he came to visit.
Yeah.
Perhaps the love letter was even to Emily, but Amanda intercepted.
All
right, fantastic. That gives us all the clues. Now, you cannot help but succeed on this roll because the mystery's complexity is 5. You have 10 clues. So that means that you have 10 minus 5 equals 5 as a bonus to your roll. And you need a 7, and you can't roll lower than a 2. However, now that, yes, some of us
with my luck.
You've been rolling really well tonight.
I got lucky. I have 7.
Has to get nominated to roll the dice, and that'll tell us whether we get a partial success or a complete one. So who's going to do the?
Well, I think it should be one of our esteemed guests.
Yep.
So either Chris or Rafe.
Each of you roll a d6.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And add them together.
Add them. All right.
All right. Here we go. My D6 is a 3,
and mine is a 1.
A partial success. So now what that means is that you're right about who did it, but there is a complication. And I think given that we're closing in on time, I might steer the complication toward a cliffhanger to end our episode with. So cut to the deck of the Regal Lady. You are all present, but so are the suspects, including Sheriff Dalrymple and Deputy Barney. You outline your theory of the case, and we end with a stunned silence on the face of the family members. Emily erupts, David, how could you? David goes, it was an accident. I didn't mean to do it, I swear. Sheriff Dalrymple says, well, that'll be for the judge to decide, son. And Barney goes, it's actually jury's, Sheriff. I
love Barney.
He goes to arrest David, only to find that Amanda is pointing a gun at him.
Dun, dun, dun.
And Andrews also, Andrews reaches into his tailcoat and also pulls out a gun.
Hell yeah.
And Amanda goes, I'm sorry. This is not what I wanted to do, particularly to you ladies. And Dalrymple goes, hey, shut up, pig. But I'm afraid that this whole unpleasant incident has endangered important work that you don't understand. Now, my son and I are going to leave. No one is going to get hurt. And we'll all just forget this ever happened, right? Mother, what are you doing? Shut up. I've had about enough out of you. You know, your inability to control your temper has ruined years of work. And she looks over at you, Susan, and says, well, I'm sure you understand. You've showed great promise. You'll be hearing from us again. Now, David, get in the boat. David, what's going on? I said, get in the boat. So David and Amanda clamber down into the boat. Anyone? We've got a few minutes left. Does anyone feel like this is probably a night move? I figure it's the end of the second day. Does anyone have a night move they'd like to do to try and stop them, or are you going to watch the suspects? Okay, go for it.
So just as they're about to
throw the cat,
I would like to throw the cat. I would like to throw Winston at Amanda to dislodge the gun.
Okay. So now, to be clear, you are throwing Winston the cat at someone holding a loaded gun.
Can he help me?
You absolutely can. Yes.
Please roll high. Please roll high.
But I just tell you that the consequences, if you mess this up, someone, and not necessarily you, will be shot.
As long as it's not the cat, I'm okay.
I will
with
randomize. This is not the kind of show where we kill the cat.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
You think, Hermione, do you want to? Which dice should I use? All right. He says we go for it.
You can roll with advantage because you're using something from your cozy little place.
Okay.
And this is with vitality.
Vitality. Well, that's a 10 on the dice.
Okay.
Oh.
And I don't get to add anything for vitality.
Whatever, a 10 is a success. So she's like, I can't believe that years of patient planning were nearly disrupted by you meddling old bitty. Not you. And at that point, you throw the gun. Bang! The gun goes off in the air, and Dalrymple rushes forward and grabs her. And so, and Barney runs over to the rail and points his gun at David and goes, freeze. And David goes, I already surrendered. I said it was an accident. Here.
Please cuff me. My mother's crazy.
Yeah. And so we see Barney loading Amanda and David into the boat and getting ready to go off. Amanda looks venomously up at the lot of you and goes, the typical that the hard. I understand that all my years of hard work were ruined by one impulsive and idiotic male, but I can't believe that you would interfere with my plans. And Barney's like, yeah, tell it to the jury. And Sheriff Dalrymple goes, well, on the one hand, the suspect is in custody. But on the other hand, did I or did I not explicitly tell you meddling old biddies not to go and solve another murder?
Do.
Yeah, that's right.
Have a scone, and I shove a scone in his mouth.
So, yeah, humorous shot of Wyman Dalrymple turning red with a scone stuffed in his mouth. Musical sting. Credits roll.
Perfect. Yay.
All right. Now, normally this is where we would ask our end of game questions. So at the beginning of a game of Brindlewood Bay, you tick those boxes next to the questions that sort of sets your goals for the session. So one of them is always to solve a mystery, but there are others that like behave like a woman half your age, embarrass an authority figure, prove you still got it. And so on.
Most of those things.
We didn't do those because since we're not playing more than one session, we're not going to worry about the experience. But in the long game, what they do is they kind of give you a plan for what you want to try and achieve that session. Now, I know that we're just about out of time, so I feel like we just snuck in under the wire there. I know, Chris, you have a thing. You got to go do some other stuff, but thank you all so much for playing. I had a fantastic time. It's
wonderful.
It's great.
I'll talk at some other point about how different this was from the other times I've run this mystery.
Excellent.
Fascinating.
Thank you so much, James.
Thanks,
Chris,
James. That was brilliant.
So, Chris, you got to run. Do you want to quickly promote anything before?
Oh, yeah. Please just check out my podcast, Strange Studies to Strange Stories, which is formerly the HP Lovecraft Literary Podcast at hppodcraft.com or strangestudies.com. And my other podcast that I do with my wife, Rachel Watches Star Trek, where I get my wife who doesn't watch Star Trek or hasn't previously watched Star Trek to watch Star Trek with me, and then we discuss it. But now she's watched lots of Star Trek because the show's been going for about 6 years now. So it's a fun show. We have a great time. Rafe helps out a lot with that show as well. He's a producer on that. So yeah, please come check those out. And thank you, everybody. I had such a great time. This game is super fun. I backed it on Kickstarter, I believe, and I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. And of course, James, you did a great job. You're a wonderful GM, and I think I might have fallen in love with you a bit, which is I'm going to process these things. I don't know what I'm going to deal with it when I see you at Dragon Meet. I don't know what's going to happen. That's all I can say. So thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thanks for being here, Chris.
Rafe, anything you want to plug or say that's cool in the world?
I'm a card-carrying Monster Man fan and a stalwart subscriber to Strange Studies of Strange Stories, and as Chris mentioned, help out on occasion on Rachel Watches Star Trek, so absolutely watch all of those. If anyone else is a fan of Weird Tales, I do the odd recording for LibriVox of those. You can find look me up on the LibriVox site to have a listen to those. But yeah, listen to all those podcasts. They're brilliant.
Rafe, you were great. James, you want to promote?
So as Rafe has alluded to, I do host a podcast, Monster Man. It's a micropod, so episodes are only about 10 to 20 minutes long. Comes out a couple times a week, depending. And it's about monsters specifically. It started with me reading through the 1977 Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Monster Manual. We're now on our 5th monster book, so we're on season 5. I have a patron exclusive podcast that's about religion and mythology called Patron Deities. If you follow me on social media or you check out those podcasts, you'll also find links to other things that I've written or contributed to. My system neutral religion and mythology, like RPG setting generator thing, the Pamphlet of Pantheons, is available both digitally and physically. Oh, look, Chris has actually got a copy. Look,
right there. Right there.
Plug.
It's not come on.
Is my murder. This is very appropriate. Murder mystery, old school essentials scenario. The Megonium Mine Murders.
Yes, I still need to get that. Yep.
Nancy Drew influenced cover by Ed Bickford.
Ooh, love it.
Nice.
So yeah, all right. Thanks for having me, and viewers, don't forget to donate.
Yes, please donate.
Yes, please donate.
Rainbow Railroad.
Yep, and we'll say goodbye to the stream now. So farewell, internet.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.